Good evening, and welcome to the Speaker MC Show. Yeah, where it's all about relationships. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you for joining us because we have a riveting topic to talk about. And I know this topic touches everybody. I'm sorry, it touches everybody. Yes. So I hope you can chime in with your 2 cents because, yeah, we're talking about multitasking and the detriments of multitasking, because everybody feels that, oh, I can get this done, I can get that done. I'm going to talk about y'all. So yes, as you know, this is the Speaker MC Show, and we are talking about Focus RX, the cure for the anemic relationship caused by multitasking. We're going to tell you how to strengthen your relationship. So these pictures, do any of these pictures look like any of you? Yeah. Multitasking. She's multitasking. Yeah. And so are they. They're multitasking too. So is this you? Well, if you're new to the show, this is the Speaker MC Show. And what we do, we have 60 minutes of riveting conversation around one topic. And as I introduced, our topic tonight is about focus, the RX for the anemic relationship. And the Speaker MC Show is all about relationships. It's how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to others, and how we relate to our environment. And me, the host, will be engaging 2 guests. Yes, we have 2 guests tonight, and oh, I can't wait till you meet them. 2 guests about the topic. So, yeah, candid conversations, riveting conversations, totally non-scripted, because we're all authentic, all organic, all from the culo. No, that's the wrong word, isn't it? Well, our intention for the show, we have 3 intentions. First, to you, our audience, is to empower you and enlighten you about creating harmonious relationships and how to boost your self-confidence. And for our guests, we provide a platform and an opportunity so that they can share their message. And for everyone, we're going to have some fun. So if you're ready to have some fun, hey, you're in the right place. I'm just going to mute everyone as they come in. And of course, I will unmute myself. Oh boy. I tried to mute everyone, but I guess I have to mute it individually. Okay. So there we go, because we were having a little bit of feedback. So we shall continue. Yes, as I said, our intention is threefold: to our audience to empower and enlighten, and to our guests to provide the opportunity and a platform to share their message, and for you, our guests, and our audience, and everyone to just have fun. Fun. You know, when last you had some fun? So let's talk about our topic, focus, the cure to the anemic relationship. We're going to talk about what is an anemic relationship. How do we suffer due to non-focus? And how can we do better? And why should we even want to do better? Well, look at this. I brought this here so that you guys can get an understanding of what's going on. So this was adopted from an article by S.W.E.L.L. And it says, the new silent killer of relationships, multitasking. And this is quoted, and I made it bigger just in case you couldn't read these fine little words. It says, last night I burned dinner while I was texting. I was embarrassed admitting to my family why dinner was less than my best. How many of you can relate to this? Ladies, even gentlemen, you know, you're the sous chef or the chef at large, but you're there texting and dinner gets burnt. Who's going to eat some burnt chicken? And here are some stats about multitasking. So every year, about 421,000 people are injured in crashes that involve a driver who was distracted in some kind of way. Like that lady we saw in that picture. She had her office and trying to do everything, type and talk on the phone and drive and pay attention to the other drivers. So every year, over 330,000 accidents are caused by texting while driving. And it leads to severe injuries. That means over 78% of all distracted drivers are distracted because they have been texting while driving. I'm just going to let that simmer for a little bit because everyone thinks, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, that's not going to happen to me. Well, you see the stats. Numbers don't lie. 78%? And this was taken from an article in icebike.org written by Luke Amen. So Luke states some very riveting statistics. Drunk driving is safer than texting while driving. Who would believe that? Drunk driving is safer than texting while driving? Well, according to these statistics, 2.5 million people in the US are involved in road accidents every year. And our population is 318.9 million, right? And 1.6 million of the 2.5 accidents involve a cell phone. So that's 64% of all those accidents are cell phone related. 421,000 people per year are injured by a distracted driver. And 78% or 330,000 accidents are caused by texting while driving. I just want those numbers to kind of simmer a little bit. Those numbers should kind of knock you in the face to make sense, because I know each and every one of us here on this show are guilty of texting while driving at some time or other. So according to this, texting while driving is 6 times worse than driving while drunk. So we'll take a breather. And we are here to meet our phenomenal guests who are going to help us discuss this topic in detail. Why is it that we should even care about this? Besides the fact that, yeah, texting while driving is very bad for your well-being. So our first guest tonight, and I know this lady, and listen, I love her to death, but I'm going to talk about her because she is a multitasker. She loves to multitask. This is Miss Khadija Ali. She is a coach, motivational speaker, and an author, and she hails from Raleigh, North Carolina. Her area of expertise is a grief advocate. Khadija is a motivational speaker as well as a coach and an author, and her passion for helping women evolve and transform their lives stems from triumphing over tragedy in her own life. In 2007, she had found herself as a single mom to 5 kids. That's why she loves to multitask. After losing her husband to colon cancer, then overnight she had to figure out how she's going to settle her husband's estate and find housing for her 5 children. It was like a wake-up call, a newly widowed woman. In 2012, Khadija asked 10 other young widows to write a book about their experience. And only 2 widows, 2 out of 10, Maureen Bobo and Chastity Williams, continued on with the book. The Unwelcome Committee, that's the name of her book. And this book is not only significant to losing a spouse, but to comprehend and grasp the outlook of grief. She's also co-director of Hope for Widows Foundation, which is an organization that assists widowed women in finding solace. So please put your hands together and say, hey, Khadija.
Hey, good evening, Marcia.
Good evening.
On the show.
Yeah, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here. We're going to talk about you, though, but we're happy to have you here. And our next guest on the show, he is such a friend to the show. I think this gentleman has been here, I can't even count how many times. So He needs no introduction. He is a friend to the show. He is badass. He hails from Chicago, Illinois. He's an author. He's a speaker. And he's written the best-selling book, You, Me, Him, and Her. Now, the first time I heard that title, you know, you hear about love triangles. Well, Marcus decided that he's going to create the love square. So You, Me, Him, and Her. And then there's a sequel, which he's coming out with in a matter of weeks. It's called Yours, Mine, His, and Hers. So put your hands together for Mr. Marcus Carter. Hey, Marcus.
Hey, how are you doing? You always make me sound way cooler than I really am, so I like your introductions way better. You make me sound important. Like my opinion matters. Like I dig it. I'm with it.
Oh, Marcus, you are important. You're very important to us. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back. Glad to be back. Always a pleasure.
Oh, okay. And this crazy lady, that's me. My name is Marcia Chambers, aka Speaker MC, and I'm your host this evening. I am a speaker and a sexual wellness consultant, and my area of expertise is working with women who are just lonely in their relationships. I help them to go from sexless to steamy. That's right. Yes, I do. Not only am I a sexual wellness consultant, but my message shares information with women about better sex and intimacy so that they give themselves permission to be sensual, sexual, and begin to lead empowered lives. My mission is to reduce the world's divorce rate by 50%. Yet chop that baby in half. And that's why I created S.W.E.L.L. for women, because I noticed that there were a lot of people just exchanging DNA and not asking the right questions. And then they subject the rest of us to their dysfunction. Not only were they texting while driving, but you know what I'm saying. Did you want to have kids? Oh, but then you want to pop out a kid for him. I'm sorry, a child. I wish that word was corrected today. A child. And he didn't want to be a father. You know, did you ask him beforehand? Yeah. So I also produce this show, the SpeakerMC Show, which is all about relationships, and it explores how we relate to ourselves and our environment and to each other. But I also produce and host a few other shows, and that's how I help spread my message. The S.W.E.L.L. Happy Hour, the S.W.E.L.L. Playroom, the Bush is Swelling Show, and they all concentrate on shifting how we think about sex and sexuality. So now that you've met us all, welcome, welcome, welcome. And I'm going to stop sharing because we're going to talk about some crucial topics here. So ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about our topic? What do you have to say about how multitasking is just a detriment to our relationships? Just a detriment, period. You know, you're trying to do this, that, and the third. What do you have to say about it? Anybody?
Well, this is, if you look at the numbers and the statistics and all the things like that, multitasking isn't the most efficient way to do things. If you're doing 5 different things at 20% capacity, you only got 5 different things that you're not finished with, as opposed to saying, okay, I'm going to take one task and complete one task at a time. Mm-hmm. When in essence, a relationship is a task. You can't multitask a relationship, nor can you multitask situations in your life. Most people that are in relationships, or as you get older, you have families as well. And anybody knows I can't spend 20 minutes with my daughter and spend 20 minutes with my significant other at the same time. You can't do that because you're dealing with somebody else's feeling and emotions. So just the concept of multitasking in general, saying that I'm going to do multiple things at one time, is inefficient to start out with. So just throwing a sentence out there, you're starting at an inefficient standpoint.
So we know that it's inefficient, but so many people do it. Why is that, Khadija?
Well, I'm going to speak from the perspective of being a woman and being a mother, and also being a wife. And I was married 16 years, 5 children. And I didn't have the luxury of saying, okay, I'm going to focus on this child over here, and I'm going to focus on them for 10 minutes, and I'm going to block everyone else out. That was not my reality. And I had to learn to multitask. I had to learn to tend to a baby, tend to a toddler, make sure that the dinner was cooking, make sure that the house was clean. And it is my understanding that women have what we call diffuse awareness. So when we're in a certain environment, when we walk into our home, we're aware of more than one thing. And not to say that you should always be in that space, but that is something that comes natural to us. So we are naturally in a space of being able to pay attention to more than one thing at a time. I don't know.
Would you say there's a difference between like, okay, that's the situation that you're in, so you had to make the best of it and say like, okay, I don't have the ability to say, I want to focus on my toddler, focus on my kid, focus on my husband, focus on everything that needs to happen. To me, it's a difference between saying like, that's what I have to do versus saying like, okay, are we having a conversation about what would be the most inefficient? Because I would assume like I have children and I have a significant other. If it was 48 hours in one day, I love to be able to say, hey, daughter, I want to spend this time with you. Or my son who isn't in the home, they're like, I got enough time in the day to drive out because I think they deserve that. Now, like yours, well, I'm not a mother, so I'm very, very clear on that line, saying where I am. But as a parent and as somebody that's in a relationship, I have to do what I have to do. But in the back of my mind, I know I'm selling somebody short myself as well, because these are relationships I would like to nurture as well, not just get through my day and like do the best that I can. But in a perfect world, I would like to say they do deserve that time. Not necessarily a situation where like, that's all I have.
Well, let me just play devil's advocate here. At what point do we, and I'm taking the standpoint from a woman's perspective, not just because I'm a woman, but yeah, a lot of women say that, hey, I got to do this, I got to do that, the diffuse awareness and all that. At what point do we then say, can you help me to do this? You know, when does the leadership step in and say, well, okay, I'm going to delegate this chore that needs to be done and ask someone to assist me instead of taking it all on ourselves? Because then that's when it becomes resentful. It becomes, oh my God, I got to do this. And then you're worn out and you're tired. Then the dinner gets burned because you're trying to do this and you do that and you do this and you do that. You know, at what point?
All right,
Anybody?
Well, I want to throw this to Khadija, because being the man in the household and watching a woman and her day goes how Khadija described her day. When does it feel, Khadija, sometimes that like you're the I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. Like I'm trying to word this the right way. Well, like, do you feel like there's somebody that you could pass that on to, that you're confident that they could get it done as well as you can? Because what I get when I say exactly what Marcia says is like, Marcus, you were handling it in a way that isn't getting it done. You would handle it how a man would handle it. So I'm curious, Khadija, to your feedback to that, because I get that all the time.
I will admit, in the beginning, it was coming from a place of what I felt was a necessity. Mm-hmm. And my husband passed away 10 years ago. So I went from having that option to now not having that option. And now that my children are older, it's hard to relinquish tasks and chores to them, because you feel like in your mind, you might as well do it because you're going to do it right? So I've given my daughter the task of folding the clothes, but she doesn't fold them the way that I like them folded. So it becomes a thing of, do you want the job done or do you want the job done right? And which one do you choose? Sometimes I choose, I just want the job done. And I don't care that she's folding the towels in a different way that I would fold them, because the job is getting done. So it really just depends on the task. It depends on what it is. Sometimes I allow my son to cook. So that requires me to release the reins, if you will, and have him make a mess of the kitchen. But the job is getting done. Dinner is getting served. But there's still this thing in the back of my mind of like, oh my God, I wouldn't have done it like that. I wouldn't have done it like that. And oh my God, he messed up the kitchen and he made more work. Like my mind just starts going, he made more work for me than if I had just done it myself. So it is a hard thing for women, especially women who are used to being so hands-on, to relinquish power, if you will, and say, you know what, daughter, fold the clothes, son, make the dinner, or like I'm very clear on trash. I don't touch it. That's his job. I'm very clear on that. But pretty much everything else, it really is a thing of like releasing reign or releasing power and saying, do it. I don't care what it looks like. It's done.
But wouldn't it be easier to teach them how to fish, so to speak? So you like your meal a certain way. So I used to live with my boo, and he loved to cook. Didn't like to clean up, but he loved to cook. And I would say, listen, it's more work when you don't clean as you go. As you use that pot, just wash it. He would rather than pile up, so he looked like, yeah, I got something done kind of thing. Meanwhile, the whole kitchen is in a mess. Food tasted good. So what I used to do, and this is just my little 2 cents, what I used to do was say, hey, would you like for me, once you get the food started, you know, all the pots are on the stove and this is simmering, that's settling down, I could just come in and do my part and just clean up what's there, or you can do it yourself. He opted for me to do it, and I didn't mind because I didn't have to look at, you know, the piles and piles and piles, and then when dinner is over, that's all on me. So we shared it that way, right? Now, my question is, if you would teach your daughter how to fold the clothes, how you like them folded, then it wouldn't be an issue, right?
No, it's not an issue per se. It's
not,
just that,
wrong word.
yeah, it's not an issue. It's just that in my mind, when I look at how she's folded it, I'm saying in my mind, she didn't fold it the way that I would want it to be folded. But I don't go back and go through this whole thing. First of all, she has a disability. So it's good to just like let her learn how to do those things, period.
And just appreciate that she folded it.
I don't go back to my son and split hairs about the kitchen is a mess, because he does complete the task. So I get to that place of when I do finally relinquish power and allow them to do stuff, you know, however they do it is however they do it. I'm a single mom, right? And I don't like to use that word, but I'm a mom with children, and you know, I've been raising my children by myself for 10 years. So there's certain things that I just don't split hairs on. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to go back and, you know, complain to my son that he didn't clean the kitchen if the goal was to get dinner done. And I'm not going to go back to my daughter and split hairs about how she folded the towels or how she folded the clothes because it got done. So when I do get to that place, like I do relinquish it and go, it's done. And that's it.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting segue relating to the topic that we're talking about, because in essence, a relationship is a baby. Is young in the beginning, it needs more nurturing, and it needs more care, it needs more support. And as it gets older, it's able to kind of stand on its own as you kind of can relate and you understand things more. To if you're looking at relationships in terms of having a baby or having a child, you get back to a point that I think Khadija was talking about, where it's like, okay, as it gets older, I can't split hairs about certain things because we should have a particular understanding with each other, versus saying, okay, when it's younger, I need to put more time into things. So then if we're talking about that from the standpoint of what the show is about, multitasking, if a relationship is new and it's younger and it can't, relationships in the beginning, they need a lot of attention. The question then becomes like, can you multitask at that point? Because I'm a man, and I'll be the first to say, like, you're in a new relationship and your girl don't call you for 3 or 4 days or something like that, it raises an alarm. And I would assume to a woman that would raise an alarm. Well, they're like, okay, I'm not getting the attention that I need. So being able to prioritize for the effectiveness of that relationship, you get to a point where you're saying, okay, I can do what's right by that person, or I can do what's right by somebody else. And I believe you get to a point where like multitasking probably isn't your best bet. If I'm dealing with a woman and I just met her and she's like, okay, where are we right now? And I'm like, hey, just chill for a second. I'm multitasking. That's not going to go very well.
Right.
Not going to go very well at all.
That doesn't go over well. I have to with my brother. But I didn't, I wasn't present to that. I haven't always been present to that. Just recently, I've been in a relationship for a year and a half, and he would call me, and I would be like out and doing stuff, and Marcia knows.
Yeah.
We're on the phone. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm talking to the kids. And he would say all the time, do I have your undivided attention? And I'm like, why is that such a big deal? Because my way of being has always been, I'm on the phone, but I can be on the computer. I can be telling my daughter to go somewhere or telling my son to do something, or, oh, come here, let me, multitasking. And it drives him crazy. It drives him absolutely batty. But I wasn't present to that. My way of being was caught, like, I wasn't present to my way of being inside a relationship. Mm-hmm. I've been, like I said, I've been by myself, living by myself with my children for a very long time. So that really got me present to, oh, you're on the phone with this person, you're on the phone with your significant other, they deserve some of your time. And they deserve some of your, like he said, he would always say, undivided attention. So, I'm right there with you. I agree.
So, what brought me to the point where stop multitasking? It's when so many people started to just kick the bucket, just die, just out, deuces. 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50, 80, 70, just boom, 40-year-old had a heart attack. What? Are you kidding me? Yeah. So when people are in your space, your arena, your energy zone, it just behooves us to just change that paradigm and just focus. When you go to countries in Europe, for the most part, they don't have this at their dinner table. Everybody is laughing and joking and carrying on because they are making use of that time that they're spending together. When you come to restaurants in the US, everybody is their head buried in their own phones. Meanwhile, somebody else is sitting across the table from you. So people are dropping like this. So it takes a toll on any relationship, not just an intimate relationship. So that kind of changed my perspective about multitasking, because I too used to be a multitasker. I'm a single parent, and I used to think, well, I can get this done, I can get that done. Now I do focused time. I will live by a clock, and I don't care who want to say, oh, well, you're so strict with that. Yes, I'll devote like an hour, and I say, I need this done. Boom, focus, get it done. Maybe we have to accommodate our relationships like that too. I got to get the cooking done. Boom, let's cook.
At the end of the day, this conversation and just about any other conversation that you're dealing with in a relationship is never going to be able to be a one-sided conversation. Marcia, everything that you just said could work fantastic, but if your partner or whomever you're dealing with says, okay, I decide to take that as a slight, or that person can say, I decide to take that as like, you really put a lot of time and energy to figuring out how you communicate with me. A relationship is always a dance, and it's depending on how your partner takes it, and being able to find that language that you and your partner speak. To me, that ultimately tells the tale of the tape when it comes to like how multitasking is perceived. Because at the root of every issue is, okay, I may be multitasking like Khadija said, because that's the way I've had to do it, because I had multiple situations and I didn't have enough time in a day. Ultimately, that response, the average person you would think be like, I completely understand that. Whether I've been through it or not. I've never been a mother, but I have children, so I completely understand that. Whereas Khadija may have to deal with somebody that's like, they may come from a different background where they're used to getting that, and that may rub them the wrong way. Well, ultimately, multitasking, not multitasking, what I have time for, what I don't have times for, it still brings you back to that dance that happens in a relationship and how two people communicate, how they feed off that energy or perceived energy or lack thereof.
Well, I mean, I take your point and I appreciate that. But what then does that toll have on you, the person? You're stretching yourself so thin across the board. You're doing this, you're doing that. Yeah, okay, the other person, how they perceive what you're doing, whether it's appreciative or it's rubbing them the wrong way. At the end of the day, you're the one still deemed with that task. And if you're doing A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, at some point in time, you're going to be so tired, you're going to be of no use to yourself.
So at that point in time, you got options. I guess all I would say is, like, if you're in a relationship with somebody that you want to be in a relationship with, you have 6 different things to do. And if you don't prioritize how me doing these 6 things is going to affect that person that I'm with, and that person takes a back seat to you getting those 6 things done, you're going to be even more tired. Because if you get those 6 things done and you're with somebody that you want to be with, and you said, I did that and didn't prioritize you, how much energy do you have for that conversation? And there's going to be a perception that you don't even have energy for the relationship because you're too busy. You got too many things going on. So how would doing those 6 things be perceived before you started doing the 6 things? You put all your energy into seeing, how does my partner feel about this? Or let me spend 20 minutes explaining to my partner that I need to do these 6 things. This is, for me, gets my day, makes me feel fulfilled, versus, all right, I'm going to do these things and hope that they understand because I had something to do. And if they don't understand, that's their problem. Or if they don't understand, then they need to readjust. But, like, again, it's a dance between 2 people.
Yeah, I get it. It's communication. It all boils down to communication, right? And you figuring out what are your love languages. But at the end of the day, let's not talk about the position where you have to, because I get it, we get it. But in the situation where, well, I don't even want to go that road again. What do you think is going on with our brain cells when we're just splitting all over the place? The dinner's on the stove and we're ironing the clothes and the baby's crying, we're changing the diaper, and, you know, our brain cells are getting all fried.
Well, I know for me, usually by the end of the week, I'm done. You know, I'm you know pretty much a lot of my schedule. By the time I get to Thursday, Friday, I'm done, and I'm learning now to, like, take that time to myself, to shut down and rest and go away from all activities except for the things that I absolutely have to do, and really give myself a day. But, you know, it's interesting to hear both of you all talk, because if you have a partner that lives in the home with you, it's really easy to say, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? It's really easy for you to say, if you have one child, well, you just take time with this one child. That is not my reality. Mm-hmm. It's not my reality. And I'm not saying that there's not room for improvement, because there absolutely is. But I always like to say I'm splitting myself in 5, right? So I have 5 children, and then I have to worry about myself. Now, 3 children are grown. They've moved out. But I still have 2 children here that I have to be concerned with, who have different needs, who have different times, who have, one is coming to me to give me the homework. Another one's coming to me saying, oh yeah, by the way, tomorrow I have a field trip and I need $40 and 3 outfits, you know, and it's like, oh, you couldn't tell me that 2 days ago when you knew. So there are some things that you can control. There's some things that you can control. I can turn off this contraption, right? And I do it. Sometimes I do it. I turn it off. You will get the voicemail for hours if I need to focus, writing or whatever it is. But there are some things in my situation that I have no control over, that it pops up sometimes and I have to respond to it, or I have to make a plan around it to address it because it needs to be addressed. So, I mean, I guess for some people it's easy to prioritize and do those things, and I do my best to prioritize, but sometimes that's just not how my household runs.
I like to use the analogy to, like, when two people are dealing, because my household is similar to Khadija. It's four children in the household at any given time, and that's not to mention that my household is the hub for cousins, nieces. So you can look up and it could be 10 kids at any given time. A whole significant other sitting across from you that don't take shorts and losses as far as getting her time. Marcia, you may be able to speak to this, and Khadija, you as well. You're self-employed, so everybody thinks you got free time. Right. They think that these books just happen while you're in the bathroom. They're like, even you don't even need any creative brainstorming time or like getting a proposal together for a client. This stuff just happens while you're sleeping. And when I'm talking to my significant other, that's why I get to a point where, like, you're never getting around the things that you talk about, Marcia. Like, they're going to happen. You're going to get pulled in a million different directions. And I like to use the analogy, like, if you was in a committed relationship and you're serious, it's two people in a car together. And you can make the ride uncomfortable or you cannot. One person can want to hear country and Western and one person can want to hear rap. Y'all got to figure that out. But, like, sitting in the driver's seat feeling like, hey, I'm the only person here. I'm the only person that understands this. I'm getting pulled in a lot of directions. When, if you in a committed relation, that person that you with is getting pulled in them same directions. And when you got to do 6 things, they got to do 6 things too. And when you got 5 children in the house, they got 5 children in the house too. So you put that in comparison to Khadija's situation where, like, okay, if it's a single parent household, you kind of like multiply that, but it's still a relationship with those children. Not to contrast what you're saying, Khadija, but just saying that, like, all right, we're, like Marcia said, we're never getting done with the, like, okay, how do I prioritize multitask? It's always just going to be not enough time in a day. So my standpoint always comes from, how do we make this ride less bumpy? Because there is no cleanly paved road where everything is perfect and everybody gets their time. So if you're with your partner and they're sitting right next to you, hey, we got to ride together. If it's a bumpy road for you, it's a bumpy road for me. So let me make sure you're comfortable, because we're never going to get around the bumps.
Right.
Okay, right. Well said. Well said. I like that. So, woohoo! How can we make it better for people? I understand, the bumpy ride, and we share. What 3 tips would you give our audience if they're experiencing trials and tribulations, non-communication, and, the ride is really bumpy because they just feel like, oh, I got to do all of this? What 3 tips can you give them to make their lives a little bit more harmonious? Khadija?
I would say, especially if you're a woman, self-care is really important. You can't be a good mother, and you can't be a good anything. You could insert whatever, a good radio host, a good caretaker, a good, co-director of a nonprofit, unless you're taking care of yourself. You can't give from an empty well. And I had to learn that the hard way. We're having this conversation, but I'm really in the process of, I need to figure out how to take care of myself first, because I broke down. I wound up with adrenal fatigue because I was trying to be everything to everybody and wasn't being anything to myself. I was putting everyone first. So self-care is really, really important. And I also think boundaries is important. So I have a bunch of friends who call me all day, every day, because I'm home. And they think, oh, she's home. She could talk on the phone for 2 hours and listen to me talk about whatever. And I really had to get to a place where I had to start setting boundaries. So my friend called me this morning, 7 o'clock. And I'm like, look, I have about 15 minutes to talk to you. And then I have to go to do A, B, and C, you know. And she's like, okay, you know, and she got it in and I got in a little bit. And then I said, oh, it's 7:15 or 7:20, whatever it was. Gotta go. Talk to you later. You know, boom. So setting boundaries, self-care. A third one would be a to-do list, which I'm still working through. I find that when I have that to-do list and I'm crossing things off, it gives me some sort of accomplishment.
Yes.
You know, and it also presents me to like what's important, you know, what's on the list. So folding clothes when I have 2 conference calls, admin work to do for the nonprofit, folding clothes is 10. It's way down the list. And that's something I can delegate to my daughter or my son. Or sometimes cooking is down on the list because I have all these other things that are priority and have to get done immediately. So those are my 3.
I like those. I like them
too.
Marcus?
First and foremost, I say empathy. That day when I got 6 different things going on, I think the worst thing that can happen is to come off to either your spouse or people in your household as if what you have to do is more important than what they had to do. A bad day for me could be losing a client. A bad day for me could be losing a speaking engagement, or a bad day for my significant other could just be somebody cut them off at a red light. And I have to have empathy to like, hey, a bad day is a bad day, whether it's mine, is yours. Right. And I have to have an understanding about that. Secondly, I think in picking your mate, and like, that's a right that you have. And I think as a woman and as a man, I have a right to say to like, hey, I think you're a worthy companion of how I view myself or what's going on. And one of the criteria I have is like, all right, how hard of a time do I have explaining to you that like, hey, if I can't get something done that is not a knock or it's not an attack on you or it's not a disregard or it's not a nonchalance to something that may be important to you, it goes back to empathy, even at that point in time, to saying like, hey, I have something going on. It does no way, shape, form, or fashion come in opposition to our relationship or what we have going on, but it's something that has to get done. And at the same point in time, you can tell them how important it is to you. And I think that open line of communication would probably be my number 3. I have a lot better time feeling like I'm being ignored if somebody just walks up to me and say like, hey, babe, I know today is a rough day, but I really wanted to get this chapter done. I really wanted to fold those clothes, and it's been in the back of my mind all day because it's been nagging me that I haven't folded them for 3 days. I don't trust handing it over to my daughter or to my son because I'm going to have to end up going behind them anyway. So if you can, give me a little pass on this one because I really want to get that done today. And at the same time, that's a give and take. And I need to understand that about my partner, and my partner needs to understand that about me. And you would think these would be things that come up early in a relationship. What are your goals? How do you go about a day? What are your triggers? What makes you feel like you're being ignored? What makes you feel like I'm multitasking and not giving you the time? What makes me feel like, all right, I'm falling short at that time? We're human beings at the end of the day. Marcia, if you call me and I miss the call, if I do that and I don't call you back and say to like, hey, Marcy, I'm sorry. It was a really busy time. I had some stuff going on. That goes a long way as opposed to just saying, Marcy, you need to understand without me saying a word. So that communication when it comes to multitasking and tips that you can have, let them know, hey, I understand today has just been hectic. It's been crazy. That's my first priority, though, is making sure you get your time. And just having that conversation, it goes a long way.
I love that. I love exactly what both of you said. And I just wanted to chime in that, yeah, communication. I'm all about communication and that empathy. So both of them fuse together. Just let the other person understand, hey, this was my day today. So my number 1 is to just take time out. Just take time out. Even 5 minutes. Just take time out for that person. You know, whether it's a text, whether it's a phone call, whether it's just a eye to eye, whatever it is, and just say, hey, it's just been one of them damn days. End of story. Sometimes they'll get it. Sometimes they're like, well, you need to get over it, whatever. But you communicated how you feel. So the communication, I think, goes a long way. And that focus, set some kind of a date night or something and say, well, okay, I feel that we haven't really got enough time together this week. So let's make a point that, excuse me, on Saturday, we're going to do just something fun. It could be going in the backyard and pitching a tent and just looking up at the stars and drinking some wine or something. But, it's that togetherness, just that appreciation more of that together time. So that's what I wanted to add. You were going to say something, Marcus?
I would just say that at a certain point in time, if the relationship you're in is at that point, they're like the partner. You would hope that you have a partner that says like, all right, I don't have to avoid multitasking. I just need to let my partner know how they fit in that dynamic of me multitasking. You hope that you have somebody that you can have that conversation with, because to Khadija's point, and that first point that she made to me has been like the undercurrent the entire evening. We're not at a point where it's like, in a perfect world, I can give you an hour, you get an hour, you get an hour, you get an hour. You just can't.
Handing them out like Oprah.
Yeah. So the lesser of two evils is, since you don't have all that time, the person that loses by you not having that time, trying to have that conversation with them, they're like, so they know. They're like, hey, I need to get this done, but you are a priority to me. And like, these things are just part of a particular day. And of the 6 things, those 6 things to me don't work if you haven't had that conversation with your significant other. It's moot at that point.
Right. Absolutely.
Empathy. I think, when you brought that up, I'm thinking, wow, like that's key. Communication is everything in every relationship, not just your significant other, but even with your children, mommy's taking care of something right now. Give me an hour and I'll come and I'll help you with whatever. Communicating that and understanding that they do need that time. So
absolutely.
Points.
Marcia, how many shows do you have where like the solution to every single show topic is communication?
I know.
Every show is communication.
It's all about communication. Like seriously, because and at the end of the day, so I created S.W.E.L.L. because people just weren't having these, as simple as it seems, a simple dialogue. Just, hey, baby, I'm not. People just fly off the handle for different reasons, and sometimes people just happen upon your time schedule and not even knowing what you're going through at that time or what's happening, and didn't even have the decency to say, what's going on? Are you okay? No, it's all about them. Well, I need that. So people aren't having the communication before choosing partners, and we can go on and on and on about communication in all different levels. But it starts there. It really does start there. And yes, Marcus, you're absolutely right. They all end up in the same communication. I would love to hear from our audience, but I just want to give you guys the opportunity to let our audiences know a little bit about you, what's going on, how we can connect with you, what's the offering that you brought to them, because we talked about gifts. So Khadija, you want to go first? And then we'll open up the floor for our audience after Marcus goes.
Sure. So I'm a grief advocate, and like it says in my bio, the reason we wrote the book was to not just talk to widowed women about how to handle grief, but to educate the audience, educate the people around you, because I guarantee you somebody knows someone who's lost somebody, or you've lost somebody significant in your life. And so I offer a 15-minute consultation, even if you haven't had the loss. So you may know someone who had the loss, and you may want to know some key tips or points of what to do to help that person. So you can reach me at, you can go to Hope for Widows.
hopeforwidows.com.
.org. You can go to hopeforwidows.org and reach out that way. Send a request to have a phone consult for 15 minutes. So again, that's Hope for Widows, FORWIDOWS.org, Hope for Widows. You can go there, or you can call me. And I don't have the number handy. You have it up on, can you pop it up on the screen again?
I sure can. I sure can, Khadija.
Thank you. And it's Hope, FOR. I'm going to put it in here.
You said the number 4. Or did I hear wrong? I thought I heard the number 4.
It's all good. I put it in here.
Here we go.
Yes. So you can dial the number 972-514. I think it's 7792. I don't have the number.
7794.
7794. Yeah, I don't have it memorized at all. Or you can email me at hopeforwidows@gmail.com. And like I said, free 10, 15-minute consultation, whether it's you who's lost or someone that you know. And thank you so much for having me here.
Do you have anything coming up? Any events or concerts?
You know, we have a bunch of stuff that we're doing inside of our group. We do have a private Facebook group for women only. Okay. And we're running a lot of different programs and services for them. So right now we're in the middle of this fall overhaul giveaway. We do Facebook Lives in the group where we talk about different topics. So that's only for people who are actual widows, women who are actually widows that get privy to those things that we have going on. So,
okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming to the show. Yes. And woohoo! Hope you'll be back. Marcus?
Well, I know I'm coming back. You stuck with me. I'm going to just start crashing shows. I'm gonna find a way to get on your computer and unmute myself. And just be like, hey, I'm here now. As usual, Marcia, it's been a pleasure. I always love hearing competent, coherent, articulate ideas. This really is how you grow. Outside of communication being the way, being open to ideas other than your own. Right. Being able to hear somebody else's point of view, how somebody else lives their life, and being able to filter, because it's something that I can take. It's some things I picked up on this call that I know are going to help me in how I multitask and kind of maintain that work-life balance or relationship-life balance, so on and so forth. I am a writer. I like the way you plug my show. I'm gonna have you travel my book. I'm gonna have you travel with me, and you're just gonna be my hype person. So yeah. I like the way you introducing me. But in line with us being people of color, we like to tell stories. So my ideas about relationships, things that I've picked up, things that I've learned, failures that I've had, things that I've seen, I like to incorporate in my books. There's a lot of subject matter about what we talked about today, and I love when I write my books, given the opportunity to interweave these situations and these ideas into characters, because I tell people all the time, they were like, is that character you, or is that character so-and-so? Like, in a way, like each character is just a point of view. They have a name, and that's a point of view and how that person looks at that situation. And my books are always an opportunity to say one chapter is from this person's point of view, but that next chapter is that exact same situation just from somebody else's point of view. So being able to just see that, like, okay, no male bashing, no female bashing. We just want to deal with these things, and we want to entertain different points of view, and you find out what works for you. So like Marcia said, my first novel, You, Me, Him, and Her, critically acclaimed. I love when people come up to me and say, hey, your book, it gave me some insight on some stuff that me and my girl and my husband were working on, and you just helped us shed a different light on it, and you did it openly. You didn't say, okay, this is a problem, that's a problem. You just put it out there and let us figure it out on our own. And I doubled down. So I'm really looking forward to my second book, Yours, Mine, His, and Hers. It's a lot of feedback that I've taken from those core readers of the first book, and I'm responding to the situations that you want to talk about. We're addressing them, and the story is going to blow your mind. So as a gift, because Marcia always lets me come on and run my mouth, everybody that goes to my Facebook page and they inbox me, and they inbox, the keyword for today is Marcia. So you need to inbox Marcia. Anybody that does that, you're going to get a free autographed copy of my book before anybody else. So before it hits the shelves, before I'm out doing author talks and selling copies, you're going to get your copy first. Yes. You can go to facebook.com/black, BLAK. Notice the Ebonics, BLAK, Love Matters. So that's Facebook. /Black Love Matters. And once you get to that page, obviously hit the like button and then just message me and just put Marcia in there, and you will have your autographed copy of the follow-up to my urban romance novel, Yours, Mine, His is Hers. It will be in your mailbox before anybody else gets to read it. That's the thing. So looking forward to it, and I love to get the feedback from the folks out there.
All right. Yes. 2 authors. Can you imagine 2 authors on our show tonight? Woohoo! So I thank you both for being here tonight. And I'm going to open up the floor. But you guys know I'm Marcia Chambers, a.k.a. SpeakerMC. And as a sexual wellness consultant, I'm always here doing a show. And download this free report, because sexual wellness is all about empowering women and empowering you to tap into your sexuality, knowing that sex is good and sex is needed and sex is necessary. Yes, it changes your perspective. So download this free report. Here is the address. It's http://bit.ly/MC-engage, and you'll get a free report. Now I'm going to open up the floor. Excuse me. I'm going to stop sharing. Let me see. Yeah. I wanted to share these tips. These were my other tips as well. You know, disconnect, which we talked about, your to-do list, block out time and meditate for 5 minutes. So I want to open up the floor to our audience. If you guys have any, please just tap me in the chat room. I'm going to unmute. Let me unmute everyone. And yes. So you're all unmuted. Anybody want to say something?
Yes.
Yes.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
Bushwoman. How are you?
Man, how are you?
Hey, Bushwoman.
Hey, I'm very good. I was multitasking while I was listening. I have to say multitask is possible, but it depends on the multitask itself, right? Women have always been multitasking. We've had the baby on the titty, cooking the pot, taking care of the hubby, and doing all of these things. But when it comes to communication, I think it's very important for people to learn how to communicate. I mean, yes, we can say communication is key, but it's important for us to learn how to say what we need to say. And I think a lot of times we don't know how to communicate, where we use accusatory terminologies such as "you made me feel" or "I don't feel this way." And I think we need to learn how to use certain pronouns such as "we," "our" in our communication. So when we use different pronouns or terminology in communication, it takes the defense off the partner, where the person doesn't feel as though they're being attacked. And I do believe that we need to set aside some time for self. That's very important, to be able to communicate that and not let our frustrations come to the forefront. So if you're dealing with a partner who doesn't understand that line of communication, how does one deal with a partner who is just about person.
Somebody else is multitasking.
Yeah. I mean, how do you convey what you need, your needs, to a partner who does not even understand how to communicate? You know, using the right appropriate language.
So I guess we need to, that seems like it's a business waiting to happen. We need to open up some kind of a school or tutorial for people in relationships, how to communicate, how to use the right words and the proper pronouns to talk. Because you're absolutely right. People just say, well, you didn't do that, you didn't, you know, the accusations and the accusatory, and yeah, it can really get out of proportion. I agree. Anybody else want to chip in?
I think Bushwoman, you hit on a couple of what my solution and what my answer would be, and your answer when you simply said, all right, making the effort to not use I and you as much as like we. Sometimes a lot of times the nonverbals of a conversation are the death of the conversation, not the actual content. In relationships that I've had, it's been like, okay, Marcus, as you can see, I run my mouth here, I'll run my mouth in a conversation where my mate may not want to talk at that moment, or I'll be long-winded, or I'll be sitting there, I'll be like, hey chick, if you rolling your eyes, how are we having a conversation? Or how are we having one?
Body language, right?
Body language, the nonverbals, and before you know it, that original concern that you had is on the back burner, and you and your partner are going back and forth about like, okay, the body language, the nonverbals that happen, and you never get to what the original issue is. So the Bushwoman's point, to add to that, I would say taking that self-inventory, like how am I coming off? And then paying attention to that first before you're addressing what you and what I and what so on and so forth feels. Because if you take that look in the mirror before you open your mouth, at the very least as a male, I want to say, hey, before I go try to give this woman a piece of my mind, let me bear in mind that I'm probably going to do that to her next week. So how do I want her to respond to me? Do I want to be in the doghouse? Do I want to get yelled at when I do the exact same thing to her next week? So having that self-inventory, I like to say, like, what am I doing? What am I bringing to this situation? Is what I'm upset about something I'm going to be upset about in the morning? Is this thing, like you just said, with folding the towels, is this priority that I'm making right now, would it be priority tomorrow, or is it just because I'm tired, because I had a long day? Taking that self-inventory goes a long way.
And taking a breath goes a long way.
Think 5 times. There's a saying that says, think 5 times before you speak. And I used to not really get what that was about. And now more and more I'm understanding, stop and think and assess, you know, what Marcus said. Really, that's assessing what's going on here. What's happening. It's like halt. Am I hungry, angry, tired, or what's the L one? I can't think of the L. But you think about those things before you open your mouth.
Horny,
angry, tired, and I don't know, whatever the L is.
The reality of it at the end of the day is that, like, us 11 people on the call right now. We all can sit on the phone and agree about everything. And the reality is there's 8 billion other people on the planet. So before I walk up to this person and I say that, like, hey, you automatically know that you did something to me, you're not giving me my time, you need to take into account that they may not think how we think. They may say that, like, okay, when you rolled your eyes at me or when you didn't make time for me, that's a direct result of this. Whereas I might say, oh, I was just multitasking. What are you talking about? So being able to get that pulse of who your companion is or who that person that you're with in any relationship, children, personal, or even professional, like, get the pulse of the person that you're working with. In business, they call that knowing your audience or knowing your demographic.
I was just going to say
you got to do that in relationships too. You got to do it there too.
That's right. You got to know your audience. You got to know your audience.
Because I said that you're a very sensitive man, but there are many brothers out there who may not be as sensitive as you are. And even though children, when you're dealing with your children want what they want. There's a Caribbean saying that children can eat mother, but mother can't eat children. Meaning that when children want their time, they don't care what rough day you had or whatever they want, period. And that even goes for mates too. And I just want to say is that maybe we need to have some people to learn how to communicate, because you do have to be sensitive and pay attention to your partner's body language. I had a brother I was dealing with, and he wasn't insensitive to my feelings as far as when I said, I don't feel like communicating right now, I'll talk to you later. And he forced the communication where it became explosive. So we need to really be aligned or work on, I think, as well as attracting that kind of an energy into our lives and working on that. This is a constant practice. That's what I would
say. And to just bushwoman, like, I've been accused of being that guy as well. That's like, okay, we need to have this conversation at this moment, to the point where I'm badgering my partner. The only thing I would say in response to that is, like, I feel like you have a right to tell that person that. And by saying that, like, okay, certain men are not as sensitive or certain men are more sensitive, that's a cop-out. You're giving them an exit, or you're giving them an opportunity to not have to meet you halfway. That's not cool. I don't feel like I'm sensitive. I feel like, okay, when I'm in a dynamic with somebody, before I go land on them how I want to feel, I want to work on my own behavior first. So when I tell you how I want to feel, I'm going to say, I'm saying that because of the effort that I put in. And I want the person across from me to expect that. And they should expect that, like, hey, I'm going to understand where you're coming from. Because I come from a place, bushwoman, where, like, I did what you were talking about, and I lost some people that I love because I wanted to do things the way I wanted to do them. And I wanted to be insensitive to what my partner or what they were going through, and it cost me. It cost me. Now I'm sitting here writing urban romance novels about what I think should be going on. You know, so I really, that hit home, bushwoman. I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to chip in? Say a few words? Say hello to our guests? No? Going once? Going twice.
Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings.
Yay! Hello.
You always get it on the third time, right?
We can't see you.
I wasn't going to put myself on camera because,
oh, okay.
You know. But anywho, I do want to thank our beautiful angel, Khadija, Ali, and Marcus. It certainly was good to hear you again. I heard you on the show last Thursday on the Bush's Swelling show. So it's good to see you again. Hey, Najami, peace and blessings to you. So I missed the first part of the call, but I will say with communication, I am learning a better way of communicating than I used to. And I just had a situation that came up last night with my partner, and I wrestled how I was going to bring up this subject because I could have made it all about him. Instead, I made it all about myself. And how I led in was, I asked him if he had some time, and he said, yeah. He said, why? And I said, I'd like to have a talk. Well, you know how y'all guys are. Uh-oh, she wants to have a talk. What's that all about? I just shared with him about the situation that happened the previous night, and I really made it about me, about how I was feeling, about what was happening as far as I was concerned, blah, 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 blah. And I could see him immediately start to relax. And, I was able to engage him in the conversation. And so it wasn't, he wasn't feeling like I did something wrong. So I sometimes feel like, I know, Marcus, you said, you don't maybe not include the eyes, but I think sometimes the I, taking on the I as the if I'm saying it's about me in this particular situation, then it's not a confrontation, and it's not a this is your fault kind of thing. And so we ended up having a beautiful communication. So I think it's wonderful, and communication is absolutely the key to a healthy relationship. So that was my 2 cents, and I do want to thank you so much for all of the input that you all shared here tonight.
Yay!
And with that, peace and blessings.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, communication is vital, and communication breeds trust, because trust is like the anchor to any kind of relation. I don't care what kind of relationship it is. It could be an intimate, it could be just a friendship, whatever it is, you know, you need to have that trust. So, but you have to be able to communicate. So yes, Marcus, communication. All right, anybody else want to say a few words while we have a little time left? We are a little over time, but just giving you guys the opportunity. No? Okay. Well,
can we start the lines of communication by teaching our children or nephews or nieces how to communicate their feelings, so when they become adults, it's something that they learn. So it starts with the children. Because children learn, you know, monkey see, monkey do. So we need to really start mirroring how healthy communication, it starts with us, and therefore teach it to the children as well.
yes, I agree with that as well. Everything starts with us, you know, everything. We have to treat ourselves good so that we attract those other people who will also treat us good, love us as much as we love ourselves. And yes, the kids will emulate everything that they learn from us as well. So I appreciate everyone coming on and giving their feedback. Thank you for sitting with us here tonight on the SpeakerMC Show. Thank you for your input. Thank you, Khadija. Did you have a good time tonight?
I mean, I had an amazing time, and I would love to come back to the show anytime you'd like to have me. And yeah, communication is the key.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much for coming on the SpeakerMC Show. And Marcus, hey, Marcus, what can I say? Did you have a good time tonight?
It was all right. Yeah, I don't know. It was all right. Yeah, no, I had a great time as you. You know how we do, Marcia. You know how we do. I had a great time.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you both for coming on the show tonight. Thank you for making this a really rambunctious, even though we started off with, text messaging, but, we really went into the relationship aspect, which the SpeakerMC Show is all about relationships. And thank you, audience, for your participation, your input. Bushwoman, mwah, 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 love you. Zakia, mwah, 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 orgasmic live. Yes.
Yes.
And to all our audience members, I hope that you found some value in our conversation tonight, and I hope that you will be back. And closing out the show, I just want to leave this with you. People will never remember what you said, and people will never remember what you did, but people will always remember how you make them feel. Maya Angelou said that, and I hope that we made you feel real good tonight. Thank you, and join us next time on the 23rd when we're having, what is our show talking about? Oh, who you think you're talking to? Yeah, Monday, October 23rd. Who you think you're talking to? With Chris Salem and Lisa Cummings. Stay tuned for that show. And thank you all for being here tonight, and a pleasant good night. Hasta la vista, baby.